at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We got to unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. Tuesday, August 13th. I am Dean Obeidallah. I am here to be your MBFF for the next 3 hours at least. And after that, on Twitter all the time at Dean Obeidallah. I hope you're having a good day. We have a lot to cover, as always. There's no vacation. Even when Trump vacations, there's no vacation. There's just too much breaking news all the time, around the world, in America. But first, a little humor. Stephen Colbert on some people who have crazy conspiracy theories about Jeffrey Epstein. Here's clip number 1.
This has set off a wild wave of conspiracy theories online. The sort of stuff that only unstable tinfoil hat loons could possibly believe. So Donald Trump, because after a few hours, Trump fans, they're coming around. Because after a few hours after Epstein's body was found, Trump shared a tweet and a video that claimed without any evidence that former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton were responsible for Epstein's death. Really? Really? That's your theory? I'm not saying the Clintons don't have any power. They could definitely get a reservation at any restaurant in New York City. Party of 4, 7 o'clock on a Saturday, maybe not. But masterminding a scheme to assassinate a high-profile prisoner in a maximum security federal custody. They couldn't even mastermind a visit to Wisconsin. But Trump clearly thinks...
Oh, later in the show, Danny Savalas will be here. We'll do a little conspiracy game. See who has the greatest conspiracy on that. And you're welcome to play that in the third hour when Danny's here. And then here was Colbert on something else that happened, which was Donald Trump going to the hospital in El Paso and talking, of course, about Donald Trump's favorite thing, Donald Trump. Clip number 2, please.
The press were not allowed inside the hospital, but cell phone video showed Trump consoling the survivors in the only way he knew how, by talking about his El Paso rally from February.
That was some crowd.
Thank you for
and we had twice the number outside. And then you had this crazy Beto. Beto had like 400 people in a parking lot. They said his crowd was wonderful.
A beautiful sentiment, which is why every time I head to a funeral, I console the family with my straight A's report card from 8th grade. Pretty great. Pretty great.
What level of narcissism is Donald? There's no... It just... Well, related to El Paso, and in obviously not humorous at all, was a very powerful ad today put up on Julian Castro. And Julian aired it during Fox and Friends, and it's remarkable Fox and Friends took it. I know it's a political ad, and maybe they have some constraints, and they couldn't say no. But in any event, we know Trump watched this. I'm surprised he didn't go on Twitter and freak out about it. But here's Julian Castro, and it's direct to camera, and him talking about El Paso. And I found it very powerful. Here's clip number 3, please.
President Trump, you referred to countries as holes. You urged American congresswomen to go back to where they came from. You called immigrants rapists. As we saw in El Paso, Americans were killed because you stoked the fire of racists. Innocent people were shot down because they looked different from you. Because they look like me. They look like my family. Words have consequences. Ya basta. I'm Julian Castro, and I approve this message.
And what he said in Spanish there was, that's enough. And powerful ad. I keep waiting for Julian Castro to move up in the polls. I don't know if you do. He's been on once here, I guess once a couple of years ago before he was a candidate, but truly an impressive guy. And does great at the debates. And still yet, it doesn't seem to show up in the polls. And I'm not sure if that's going to change in time or not. You know, Donald Trump yesterday unveiled a brand new policy to demonize immigrants, this time legal immigrants. And I got to tell you, if Donald Trump spent half as much time working on our healthcare system as he does at keeping America white, we would have the greatest healthcare system in the world. If he spent half his time on climate change as he does on keeping America white, we would actually be tackling climate change. He spent 20% of his time trying to keep America white, instead on focusing on gun violence and reducing it. We would have less people of our fellow Americans killed every day. But he doesn't. Everything he does goes through the prism of keeping America white. And people might go, oh, it's unfair to say that. It's an immigration policy. The messenger matters. The person articulating a policy matters. Their views matter. We cannot pretend it's in a vacuum. We don't live in a vacuum. Donald Trump has demonized immigrants over and over and over. He's made his entire campaign about stirring up hate, demonizing the brown person who are coming to this country, painting them as criminals and rapists and drug dealers, and now as welfare criminals. I guess that's sort of what he's getting at here. But here's his latest policy to keep America white. And it's to punish legal immigrants. Just so it's clear, undocumented immigrants cannot collect federal welfare benefits. They don't get them. They're not eligible. That's life. This is for people who are legal immigrants who are here. They're permanent residents. They have green cards or they're on their way to the green cards. New rule yesterday that they announced, which will go in effect in mid-October, which is truly designed to punish immigrants who are here legally. What the rule will do is those who try to get a green card or get your green card renewed if you already have one, they're going to make it more difficult by looking at if you've received any public benefits, if you got food stamps or Section 8 housing, which is subsidies to get housing, or Medicaid. And experts say this could cut legal immigration in half by denying visas and permanent residency to hundreds of thousands of people. So think about this. And it's called public charge. That's the term they're using. I think you all understand public charge. It just means someone who is relying on benefits from the state. I mean, that's the technical definition. Public charge really gives you a picture of someone who's a charge of the state, they have no wherewithal whatsoever, and everything they get from their housing to all their food and clothing is from the government. That's not how they're defining public charge. It's anyone who receives any kind of federal benefit whatsoever. Meaning you're going to have to choose. If you're an immigrant, and again, this is just for legal immigrants, even those who have green cards now and want to get a renewal, I think it's 10-year renewal for green cards, that you will have to choose, literally choose, between getting programs for your family, like food stamps, and for yourself, or potentially becoming a citizen in the United States of America one day, or at least keeping your permanent resident status. Think of that. This Sophie's choice of immigration here. The rule would go into effect October 15th, making it harder for low-income immigrants to come to the country who are not here yet. And if you're here already, permanent resident, you want to get renewal or you're trying to get a green card, boom, they're going to say no. And the background on public charge, just so everyone has a little context on it, it was first put into U.S. law in 1882 when America was very progressive, as you might imagine. It was not. That was the same year the U.S. enacted the Chinese Exclusion Act, which barred the entry of Chinese laborers into America on the premise that immigration from China endangered the good order of certain localities because we had used them to build the railroads and we don't want them anymore. In the 1990s, just so it's clear, people on the right keep saying Bill Clinton did the same thing. That's not true. Although Bill Clinton did do something relevant, but not the exact same thing. What they did, the Clinton administration, is if you received cash-only benefits like temporary assistance for needy families, then that could be considered in a stew of reasons to give you a green card or not. Not the rest of these, not food stamps, not Section 8 housing. None of these are cash. These are programs in kind. The subsidies for the housing, Section 8 housing, food stamps obviously are like, it's called SNAP now, but it's the idea you get a little coupon and you go to the store and you get discounts or food that it's paid for through that program. So right now, the way the system works is that if you're an immigrant and you want to get renewed or you want to get a green card, you apply. And the government does look at if you would be a burden on our nation if you were given this green card. And this just adds new criteria to make it easier for Trump administration to say no to people. That's all it's about. And there's some studies, and these are our predictions because we don't know exactly how it's going to play out, but a study last year by the Urban Institute's Health Policy Center predicts that as many as 6.8 million U.S. citizen children who are enrolled in Medicaid and Children's Health Insurance Program with parents who are non-citizens could be affected. Because the way the rule is now out there, doesn't go into effect October 15th, but the rule's over 800 pages, and the way these experts say it will apply, because they know how Trump will apply it, say you're a child, you're born here legally, but your parents are undocumented. or your parents are legally here but not citizens and you are as a kid, if you and your family get any benefits, you're going to affect your parents' ability to get a green card or get a renewal of a green card. So they're pitting families. They're not only is Trump dividing Americans against each other, he's literally dividing families against each other who are mixed status, some being citizens, some being permanent residents. Here is Charles Wheeler of the Catholic Legal Immigration Network said, quote, "The Trump administration is trying to bypass Congress and implement its own merit-based immigration system. It's really a backdoor way of prohibiting low-income people from immigrating. The National Immigration Law Center said they're going to file a lawsuit to stop it. And it gets worse, if it could, but it does get worse. It gets worse because the way it was explained by Ken Cuccinelli, who was Trump's acting United States Citizenship and Immigration Services head. And everyone's acting because Trump doesn't want confirmation in the Senate. And before I explain what Ken Cuccinelli said, let me explain to you who Ken Cuccinelli is, because the media has just glossed over it and has sort of whitewashed this horrific man's history. Ken Cuccinelli is a vile, despicable anti-LGBT bigot. That's who he is. He's a man who's claimed that the homosexual agenda brings nothing but self-destruction, not only physically, but of their soul. Cuccinelli has literally, before he was the Attorney General in Virginia and as an activist before that, fought against policy that banned discrimination against LGBT people in public colleges and universities, meaning he wanted to allow discrimination against LGBT people who wanted to work in universities or college. That's the scumbag Ken Cuccinelli is, who was part of the Trump administration. Cuccinelli also said in the past that militant homosexual agenda generally threatens the stability of our families and our society. Ken Cuccinelli is a living, breathing example that bigots just don't hate one group. If you're a bigot, if you hate the gay community, you also hate immigrants. You hate Muslims. You hate blacks. It's rare that I've met someone who goes, I hate Muslims, but I really love Latinos and black people. That's rare. What you find is the Ken Cuccinellis. And these are the people Trump surrounds himself with, bigots and racists. Do you know why? It makes Trump feel normal to have people who are racist and bigots like him surrounding him. So Ken Cuccinelli, the head of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, said today, defending this plan, because he was asked by NPR, aren't you undermining the very words on the Statue of Liberty with this policy? Because he's the champion of this policy now for the Trump administration. And those famous poem, Emma Lazarus' poem, "Give me you're tired, you're poor, your huddle mass is yearning to be free." And they add Ken Cuccinelli about it. And Ken Cuccinelli, he's so witty, said, oh, it's got to be updated to "Give me you're tired and you're poor, who can stand on their own 2 feet and will not become a public charge." He wants to rewrite, literally said he wants to rewrite the poem on the Statue of Liberty to no longer say "Give me you're tired and you're poor, your huddle mass is yearning to be free." To change it to "Give me you're tired and poor, who can stand on their own 2 feet and will not become a public charge." And I want to be really clear. This is not a philosophy just directed at immigrants. This is a philosophy of elitists. This is a philosophy of Trump and the white supremacists around him. That it's not just immigrants when he said we want people who can stand on their own 2 feet and will not be a public charge. He is directing that at Americans as well. That's their philosophy. If you're an American and you're on food stamps or children's health insurance program or Medicaid or Section 8 housing, you are a public charge. And you should stand on your own 2 feet and pull yourself up by your bootstraps, because Ken Cuccinelli used that exact words today, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. That's how they view it. And here's what's really interesting about that. Do you want to know who the biggest group of people on government welfare is in this country? Want to guess? White people without a college degree. Want to know who they are? That's Donald Trump's base. White people without a college degree. That's statistically correct. Want to know the statistics of who gets food stamps? 40% of food stamp recipients are white. 25% are black, 10% Hispanic. So when Ken Cuccinelli says, we want people who stand on their own 2 feet and will not be a public charge, he's going right at Trump supporters. He is showing their elitism to you. That if you're on food stamps, if you need any help for any time of your life, they look down on you. They don't want you here. Doesn't matter if you're an immigrant or not. The line they're adding is immigrant. It makes it easier. But this is what's going on here. And to me, though, a big part of this, and so much of what Trump does, harkens back to the days of Jim Crow, where the white men in power, and it was just men, after the Civil War, were so concerned that poor white people were working together with black people. That what they did is make these poor white people feel better about themselves by demonizing and discriminating against black people and even killing them. What they're doing now, Trump is doing the same thing for poor white supporters who are struggling. And again, the biggest recipients of federal welfare are white men, white people without a college degree, Trump supporters. Their lives suck. Things aren't working out. I get it. My heart breaks for them. And how Trump makes them feel better about their life sucking is by going, look what we're doing to the immigrants. We're not going to let them in the country to get the same benefits that you get because they're a public charge on our system. They should stand on their own 2 feet. And I know that you should stand on your own 2 feet too, but you're not. But look, you'll be better than the brown person. That's what so much of this is. Trump's cruelty knows no bounds, my friends. The idea of having a family decide, should I get a green card and maybe become a U.S. citizen one day and be part of this amazing experiment known as the United States of America? Or feed my children and take food stamps? Who does this? And another side to this, if we're going to make human beings suffer for taking welfare benefits, how come corporations are not called to suffer for taking government welfare, corporate welfare? The fossil fuels company gets the most corporate welfare you can get in this country. They are wealthy beyond means. You want to know the top 5 oil companies recently received a combined $4 billion in tax breaks? Every year, the oil companies get to deduct millions of dollars from their tax bills for costs of new wells, oil exploration. Other examples of corporate welfare going on with this administration and others, Democrats and Republicans, have given out corporate welfare in terms of subsidies for pharmaceutical makers to develop drugs, tech giants, defense contractors, and the most specific one we've seen in the time of Trump. Trump has spent $28 billion of your and my taxpayer dollars to help farmers who he hurt with his tariffs. That's $28 billion in government welfare to farmers. And we all know this because we've covered it. The biggest recipients of this government welfare are not the little farmer who really needs it. It's the big corporate farms. So these corporate welfare is going to these people and they don't pay a penalty, yet the brown immigrant has to pay a penalty. I think there should be a penalty for any recipient, to be fair, of corporate welfare. At least higher taxes. You don't get the benefit of the tax cut. How about that? Or you have to pay a higher working living wage for people. There should be some penalty for corporate welfare if you're going to impose it on human beings, the same thing. That's my view. But I'd love to hear from you. What do you make of? Are there no ends to Donald Trump's continued focus on the brown immigrant? It doesn't end. There's no talk of a health care plan for us. There's no, except right now to remind you, as we sit here, the Trump administration's the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals trying to get rid of your coverage for you and your family for pre-existing medical conditions. They're arguing there were 20 attorney generals, Republicans, in federal court trying to strike down the ACA, and it ends, there's no exception, because they're arguing for the end of pre-existing coverage for pre-existing health conditions. And guess what? They have no backup plan. There's nothing there to save you afterwards. We're all on our own. So why not focus on healthcare a little? Nope. Why not focus really on climate change? Nope, he'll deny it because these same corporations that he gives benefits to and welfare to, and he has no problem doing that because they're his donor class. He won't talk about climate change because it hurts their bottom line. Gun safety, he'll give a few sound bites and the media jumps up and down. Oh my God, look how reasonable he is. He's not going to follow through with it. He's a con man. That's what Donald Trump is. So do you take it the same way I do? That when you hear these words of Ken Cuccinelli, the idea we want people who can stand on their own 2 feet and will not become a public charge. Is he not also insulting everyone who takes benefits? And again, the biggest recipients of welfare benefits in this country are white people without a college degree, Trump's base. He's mocking them. He's ridiculing them. They don't even get it or they don't care because he gives them the trolling and the bigotry they love. I don't get it. Have some self-respect for yourself. Seriously, Trumpers. So I'd love to hear from you. You're my guest right at the top of the hour. We got a lot of guests tonight. We'll take calls in between, though. We got Congressman Mark Pocan joining us. We got Tom Steyer's coming back on. It looks like he's going to qualify for the September debate. He's one poll away, and he got all these donations that he needed today. So he's coming on. He's doing a lot of media to talk about that. And then Danny Savalas in the third hour will play Guess That Conspiracy Game with Danny Savalas on the Epstein thing. There's too much craziness there. 866-997-4748. Love to hear from you.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
I think Trump clips that they play on the media should come with a health warning saying